Where Eagles Dare is a 1968 war film, and it is the second film in what I have now called the Alistair MacLean war film trilogy. The first film was 1961's The Guns of Navarone, which I covered in a previous video. This film stars Richard Burton in the main role and a young Clint Eastwood as the supporting role. Now, Clint Eastwood was relatively unknown at the time in 1968. He had only just done 3 Sergio Leone spaghetti westerns, which weren't released until about 1968. Of course, Clint Eastwood was well known for his TV series Rawhide, but in Hollywood movies he was relatively unknown. So this was one of his big early films, and he played second fiddle to Richard Burton, but Clint Eastwood is still great in this film. And Richard Burton at the time, he was sort of down on his luck in his career, and this was a kind of comeback film for Richard Burton. It was a vehicle which he was enthusiastic to star in because it was an adventure war film and it was a big budget film, so Richard Burton came back to do this, and his career seemed to pick up again after this film. But the plot revolves around a group of Allied soldiers that have to infiltrate a fortress on top of a mountain because there's a colonel and he's been kidnapped by the Germans, and he holds vital information which could see the demise of the second front if this information falls into enemy hands. So it's important to rescue this colonel so that they can stop the Germans obtaining this vital information. And the character played by Clint Eastwood is an American ranger who at first, during the briefing scenes, looks a bit oblivious as to why he's there, and he actually brings this up in the film. He cannot understand why an American would be involved in such a mission, but this is explained later on in the film why he's been chosen to accompany the commandos on this mission. And the film opens with excellent cinematography of a plane flying at night through the Alps, the Swiss Alps, and it's very atmospheric, and it has immediately a theme tune by Ron Goodwin, who is a British film composer, and it's a killer opening to the film. It's a killer theme tune. Ron Goodman would go on to score films like the Alfred Hitchcock Frenzy, and he also scored The Battle of Britain, which I'm not sure if it came before Where Eagles Dare or after, but he did that film as well. But unlike The Guns of Navarone, where I made a comment that I wasn't too familiar with the guy who scored that film, I'm a bit more familiar with Ron Goodwin. But yes, the film starts off where they're parachuted into the battlefield and they have to make their way to this fortress on top of a hill to rescue this colonel. And the fortress is called Schloss Adler, and the only way they can access this fortress is via a cable car. So they have to infiltrate the town, the nearby town, and they have to further on move towards infiltrating the German barracks at the foot of the mountain, which just so happens to hold the cable car station. So they have to find a way to get on the cable car and infiltrate the fortress. And it's like the previous film, The Guns of Navarone. It's an old film. It's 1968, but the special effects hold up really well. It's got good pace and the story is great. A few criticisms in the film which came from Clint Eastwood himself was he dubbed the film Where Doubles Dare because he was cheesed off that rather than let him do his own stunts, they relied heavily on stunt doubles, and unfortunately in some scenes you can notice the stunt doubles, but it's not too often. It doesn't happen too often and it doesn't distract from the film. There's great set pieces in the film. There's early on the kind of the setting up the plan to escape from the castle, and the sort of systematically setting different things up along the way before they actually start off to actually go to the castle, the fortress on the top of the hill. Like the previous film, The Guns of Navarone, there's two female characters in, and they're strong characters. One of the female characters was played by an actress called Mary Ure, and she is later on deployed into the mission unknown to the rest of the commandos. She turns up and it's a surprise for them, and they don't know why she's there either, but that becomes clear as well. And she's just as, like, she can hold her own with the rest of the male characters, and it just shows you that, you know, despite this new latest trend where they have strong female characters in Hollywood, they've been doing things like that since the 1960s. You know, they've been strong female characters in big films, so it's nothing really new. But great characters. One character, she is that contact in the village, and she helps set the mission up. And the other character, played by Mary Ure, she's got more to do with the mission. She fights alongside the men, and there's a lot of parallels between this film, I think, and the following year's James Bond film On Her Majesty's Secret Service, in that there's heavily featured mountaintop base, there's cable car access, and I'm not sure. I think the novel of On Her Majesty's Secret Service was written before Where Eagles Dare, so I think Alistair MacLean got some ideas from the James Bond novel for his novel Where Eagles Dare, which incidentally was actually written after the film. The screenplay to the film and the film was done first, and then Alistair MacLean released the novel after it. So it would seem that on Her Majesty's Secret Service, the plot came first, and Alistair MacLean used elements of that plot for his Where Eagles Dare plot. There's a funny scene I should mention where they get off the cable car, and there's like a ledge overhanging the mountain, and the wall of the castle, they have to scale the wall of the castle with a rope and climb in the window to gain access. And the funny thing is, in the film, Richard Burton is a real trooper. He's climbing up this rope without any problems. You know, he looks fit as a fiddle. And in the film, Clint Eastwood's struggling, and he's really like getting tired, and he needs help to get in the window. Whereas in real life, Richard Burton was the one who was unfit, and Clint Eastwood was the one who managed to scale, well, would have been able to scale the wall with ease, because Richard Burton was unfit because he had drinking problems and stuff. And it's just funny when I watch the film, you know, Clint Eastwood's the one that's struggling, whereas in real life he was the far fitter out of the two of them. And there's a lot of twists along the way. The plot in the middle turns in on itself, and there's a big twist, which is you don't really see it coming. There's a twist at the end as well. Also notable in this film is an appearance by British actor Darren Nesbitt, who's been in a lot of English films, and he plays a Gestapo agent, and he's very cold and cruel and sinister. Also, this film is notable for the biggest body count in any Clint Eastwood film. He kills more people in this film than he probably has done in his entire career, and he doesn't say much. He lets Richard Burton do all the talking, and he does all the shooting. So, but it's a very good vehicle for Clint Eastwood. It's a very enjoyable film, and the action never lets up. It's constant all the way through. It doesn't deter from the story. The story works really well with the action sequences, and the end where the escaping is a very long sequence as well, and it never lets up. It's really enjoyable. It's thoroughly enjoyable. This was actually, like I said in my previous video, this was the film I was more familiar with in the Alistair MacLean War trilogy, and it was because of this film that I decided to visit the Guns of Navarone, which I'm glad I did. So I would say this film is actually better than the Guns of Navarone, in my personal opinion anyway. It seems to have a bit more action in it, and it's, you know, this in the Guns of Navarone there's a bit of a pointless scene where they're singing in the middle of the film, and it's a little bit corny, you know, but that was because there was a cast member who was a singer in real life, and I think they just give him that scene because it was, you know, required from his management that he had to sing in the film. But there's no corny singing scenes in this film. In fact, I think it's a bit more darker and serious than the Guns of Navarone, and it's certainly yet another great film in the Alistair MacLean war film trilogy. And I had it again, like I said on the Guns of Navarone video, I had it on DVD, but I've upgraded to Blu-ray, and again, as you would expect, Blu-ray picture quality, sound quality far superior to the DVD, especially watching it on your home cinema system with the surround speakers. And yeah, so basically that's Where Eagles Dare, another good film. And the third and final film in the Alistair MacLean trilogy will be Force 10 from Navarone, which is a sequel to the Guns of Navarone, but because the film is tonally different and it was filmed a lot longer after the Guns of Navarone with different actors, I would say the film is more of a loose trilogy than what the novel was to the original novel of the film. So again, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you again for the third and final film in the trilogy, Force 10 from Navarone. Goodbye.